Bleh. Hello spooky people, it is Lilith and welcome back to my channel. Today I will be sharing with you my recommendations for 2025 for unique Halloween costumes. I have a little bit of a confession to make. I still don't 100% know what I'm going to be even after doing all of the research that I did for this video, but hopefully at the very least I can help you figure out your costume this year. Throughout the course of this video, I'll also be giving you suggestions on how to make your costume more unique and how to pick a concept or a style for your concept that is going to make you stand out. I'll also be adding my recommendations for body paint and also recommendations for affordable costuming. All of the pictures that you see popping up in the screen of this video, I'll also have those in a Pinterest board linked down below. That's where I found most of these. Some of the pictures will be of me, of previous costumes that I've done before. Let's start off with some of the group costume ideas that I had. I think that these would also be fine as solo costumes, but I think there's a lot of potential there for everyone to have a good costume in your group. Pin-up, horror, monsters. This could be something from a specific IP, like if you all like a horror movie. I was thinking more of like classics, like The Mummy, Dracula, or like a vampire, being like Wolfman. I think this would be a really cute one to do as a pinup style. I've done a pinup zombie before. There's so many different options from kind of the classic monsters that everyone could have like a cool character. It's been done a bunch of times. It's not a very unique concept, but that's where the styling kind of becomes the focal point. It's not about like just the costume idea, but what you're doing with it that's unique. I really love this done in a pinup style. I feel like it's so classy and it's really cute. Would stand out compared to just like doing the characters like normal. A vintage inspired take on this whole thing I think would also be very cool. Like the silhouettes of the clothing that you're all wearing being sort of Victorian inspired, or you could pick a different decade. You could do like 70s or 60s and just go completely out of left field with it. For all the characters that I think would fit in this sort of concept is a devil, a zombie, a mummy, maybe a ghost, a vampire, Wolfman. This one I think is super cool, and I'm kind of interested in maybe doing my own costume in this direction of a like sunken sea captain, or like a pirate, like not like normal pirate, which would be cool. You could do normal pirate, or you could do like blue makeup and like make yourself look drowned, like a ghostly pirate. This would be really cute for a couple's costume, to have one of you be like a drowned sailor and one of you be a siren or a mermaid. And I also think it's very like cool to do like a mermaid sort of siren thing. There's a lot of different directions you can take it in. It's easy to pull off. Like I think most people have some pieces in their wardrobe that they could do, and with the right makeup do like a cool looking siren type or mermaid type costume. This one is good as a solo costume, a couple's costume, or a group costume. You could be like a bunch of pirates or a bunch of mermaids, or like half pirates, half mermaids. I think that would be really cool. You know, doing something kind of avant-garde and almost like otherworldly with your makeup. Like, are you a scary siren, or are you an ethereal sort of whimsical siren? You know, you could go in completely different directions with it. Oh my god, I so want to see somebody do like a fantasy group costume. And again, these all work for solos, but like a group of people as like a wizard and a knight and a princess and a jester. Like, I think that would be really cute, especially if you play D&D. Dress up as like your characters. I think that would be really fun, especially if like you want to role play it a little bit. I really enjoy doing that with Halloween costumes, like of kind of like playfully being in character a little bit, you know. It's a former theater kid in remission sort of thing, I guess. Be like a goblin. I've done a goblin costume before. I think goblins are super cool. And I took mine in more of like a sensual sort of barbarian goblin sort of vibe. But you could do like more freaky looking, like more of like a scary goblin. Kind of like in D&D, there's different types of classes that you could do. Like, I think it would be cool to do an unexpected combination. This is one vibe that I really love for just shooting photography in general, medical theme, like nurses, doctors, patients. That's kind of what makes it a good group costume, is there's different types of characters that everyone can be, and you could even have multiple nurses or multiple patients or something like that. And again, this is one where you can take it in like completely different directions. Like you could do a really cutesy like pastel group of medical characters, or you could do it like super horror and spooky and add like blood and stuff, or make it kind of like decrepit and apocalyptic. Kind of in a similar vein to medical, you can do more of like a campy take on that and be like a mad scientist. This is actually what I did for Halloween last year. And I love especially the costumes of like mad scientist characters that are really exaggerated. Like I had really giant props for mine. The archetype of like a mad scientist with the crazy hair and the goggles, like I feel like it's so eccentric and fun. Test subject, like somebody that you're experimenting on, and that also has like a fun like role play opportunity of you can be messing with. This is like a good couples cosplay. I did this with my partner last year and they were like my patient, like I was experimenting on them. There won't be a whole lot of pop culture related costumes in this. I'll give my reasons for that after I share this idea, but I couldn't not talk about like FNAF. And I think there's a lot of different directions that you could take this in. You could all be like the same era of Five Nights at Freddy's and be like, Bonnie, Chica, Freddy, all in the same style in the same game. Or what I think would also be really cool is if you were the same character, but from different eras. Like you could be all different Chicas. I love Chica. I would be Chica if I was in a Freddy's cosplay. In the same way, you could do it more spooky or you could do it more cute. And the character designs, I feel like, are so bright and iconic. Like they're so recognizable that you really don't have to go too crazy for it to be recognizable for what it is. Like Chica has a cupcake. If you have the cupcake and the right colors of your outfit, like people that know the game are gonna know that you're Chica. And if you've made it this far in the video, maybe consider leaving a like. Let the algorithm know that you want more Halloween costume vibes in your feed. And if you really dig what's going on here, maybe even subscribe and join our little spooky community here. Gloomy Ghost is camera shy. You stay right there. For Halloween costumes, I generally don't go for something that's pop culture. There's a couple reasons. I took some notes I'm gonna look at. I love cosplay. I've done cosplay before, but I think for Halloween costumes, it's easy to end up, if you're picking a popular IP, like being in the same costume more or less as other people. I personally don't like that. I know some people don't like that. Like it's not a huge deal. So if you pick a character that's really popular at that time, there's going to be a bunch of other people doing that same costume that same year. That's why I usually don't rely too much on pop culture references when it comes to costuming. But some of these I thought were really cool. A lot of different aesthetics that you could do them with. So the ones I included, tried to make sure it was something that it was more versatile. This one is a certified classic. Group Alice in Wonderland cosplay. Maybe this one's kind of obvious, but I think there is so many different ways that you can make this unique. I love dark Alice in Wonderland things. I'm a big fan of American McGee's Alice games. It's just, you can do kind of more of like an antique sort of vibe. You could make them more modern. You could do like the rave versions or something. Like the characters, again, are so iconic. You don't have to hit, a movie accurate costume for it to be recognizable. Alice in Wonderland things, I feel like, are always cool. I feel like they never go out of fashion, and doing some kind of unusual direction with that, even better. More iterations in the Alice in Wonderland metaverse, universe. I think the word I was looking for was multiverse. You want it to be not so much of a deep cut that people are going to struggle to know what you are. Maybe that happens a little bit here and there, but I find it frustrating when you put a lot of time into a costume or you're just excited about it and then nobody can tell what you are. It's kind of this balance of like something that's unique, something that's different, or a unique take on something, but also not being like so niche that like nobody knows what you're doing. That may just be a me thing. I don't know. Maybe some of you relate to that. Our final, specifically like group project. This is a group project. Everybody better have studied. Monster High. Doing Monster High characters with your besties. Dude, there's so many different options. Even if you want to do like a very popular Monster High character, I think that's fine, especially if you can kind of integrate your own personal style into them. Like, I think that's really neat. I love people that do, like, I've seen some horror ones, like they make them kind of grotesque looking. I would love to do a Monster High costume at some point. I would really love to do Abby. Very approachable for people, because most of the characters, it's more about their color palette and maybe like what type of clothing they wear. If they wear like jackets or if they wear mini skirts or whatever, you really just need the wig and an outfit that has like some of their colors in it. Let's get into some of my solo costume recommendations. And I think you could do these as a group, but I think that they stand alone by themselves very well. I've kind of done something similar, but I would love to hit this like kind of more on the nose, is a satyr. Like, you know, they're like the mythological creature. They have horns and like legs, like the furry legs and stuff. And I feel like these are so cute. And the makeup isn't that hard. You're just making your nose look like a deer. You have the prosthetics and stuff. You can buy things like that are pretty affordable and doctor them up a little bit. And I think it's cool when people are able to pull off like a faux deer leg silhouette, like cosplays and stuff will do that, where it looks like a deer leg. But I don't think you even have to do that for it to read as what it is. You just get like brown furry leg warmers. That kind of leads me into something else that I wanted to touch on. You can find really cool custom made stuff online, and I think that's wonderful. Don't necessarily have to spend a lot of money on like a custom handmade costume to have something that looks unique. Usually what I end up doing, because I'm a little bit of a lazy crafter, is I will get a base piece and I will get trim and little bits and baubles, and I will glue or sew that shit on. Taking the time to do that, and whatever it is, like 20 bucks worth of trim or tassels or beads or moss if you're doing something naturey. So little like money and effort that goes into doing something like that, and I feel like the reward is so much more than what you put into it. Similar to our satyr concept is a dryad. I think a dryad would be so cool, especially if you're good at makeup, which for those of you that don't know, dryad is like a tree nymph. They're like a tree spirit. I think if you could do some cool body paint, some cool face makeup, I don't think you would really need to buy anything. Like, I think you could just find cool earth toned stuff in your closet, and that would basically pull your whole thing together. Glue some moss on some cardboard and paint it, and like, that's your thing. It's super cheap, and I just think the payoff for something like this is so cool. The next one I want to get into, I think this is so fierce. I think it's so fierce. I did this a while ago, and it's one of my favorite costumes I've ever done. I actually won, I think, 2 Halloween costume contests the year that I wore this. A bug costume, a bug costume. I'm so serious. When you get little goggles on your head, that's how I did mine, but you could do the makeup as your bug eyes. You can make little antennas. Like, I made mine out of a headband and like electrical tape and string, and like it reads as little antennas, and there are these like bug high fashion avant-garde things, and that was kind of the inspiration that I did for mine. I think these are so cool, and there's so many different kinds of bugs. You could do a dragonfly, you could do a beetle, like there's so many different options. I also saw on Pinterest this snail costume. Oh my god, that is so cute. I don't know exactly how you would make something like that, but now I kind of want to find out. I think this is more of like a common one than a bug, but also doing a moth is super cool. There's a lot of different ways you could do that. You could do one and it would be completely different from any of the other ones. If you were going to do something with wings like this, one like pretty easy, cheap way you could go about this is just like thrifting some fabric, like some bed sheets, and painting the moth wing design on there, and like there you go. Like, you could do that for $10 and I think it would look really cool. This is one for my witchy hoes out there, which I'm a witchy hoe, but this isn't my practice specifically. But if you're somebody who's into like deity worshiping, like you have deities that you work with, I think it would be really cool to do a goddess or a god costume, especially if like you really intimately know their vibe. Such a great way to like respect and like pay reverence to a deity if you work with one. God, they look so beautiful. I love ones that are in the Greek and Roman, kind of that iconic like silhouette. If you're like a Celtic pagan, like doing like Morrigan or something like that, like, there's such a wide variety of different gods and goddesses out there, and that's, I think, part of why this would be really unique. I think most people that know a little bit about mythology would be able to know what it is that you're doing. And even if they don't, it would still look really cool. You know, you can do sort of ethereal looking makeup, kind of flowing garbs, or whatever it is that would best represent that that figure, that deity. I just think this would be a really cool witchy sort of referential costume to do. I think there's a lot of different ways to do this, and it's like a bat with like big ears, like big, like kind of realistic looking ears. I found this one costume, and I find this to be such a good example of how to make costuming unique. Is they've changed the color of the animal. It's an albino bat instead of the typical coat that a bat would be. Such a unique take. I'm in love with this costume. It's really well executed, and I think it's a great example of transforming an idea that is popular into something that's very special. For some of you spooky little freaks out there, this is like the perfect costume. Like, this is gonna fit your vibe. Do spooky doll. Do like a spooky, haunted, cute, creepy doll. Again, something that's like fairly common, but I think if you incorporate your own personal taste into it, it would be super cute. And this is also one that's really easy to pull off. Like, you don't need a wig, you don't really need a costume per se. All you really needed is the makeup, just to spend a couple hours maybe doing cracks on your body. I really like the ones that are sort of vintage inspired, and this is a great standalone costume. Sort of like a similar vibe to this is doing like a Rococo style. I mean, it doesn't have to be like Marie Antoinette necessarily. You would have the most like thrifting for it, or even looking on like a Depop or something to find something that has like the right colors, the right kind of silhouette and lace. I also think it's really cute when people do like a lingerie version of a Rococo where you have like the crinoline and just like the undergarments. I think that's really cool, and it's like, it's sexy, but it's not like all your bits and bobs are out, because back then they had like a lot of stuff going on like underneath their dresses. It doesn't have to be a specific person. It doesn't have to be a specific color. I think if you just hit that kind of pastel color palette that they were really into back then, I think that it would read as what it is. I think maybe the only part of this that is difficult is the wig, but I'm sure there are some great tutorials out there for doing like a Rococo style wig. Backcomb the shit out of it until it touches the ceiling, more or less. Our last, but certainly not least suggestion, and I say not least, I mean it. This is one of like the top contenders for what I might do for Halloween this year. Doing an alien, doing a cute little green or blue alien. I think these are so cute. I feel like there's two sort of like decades references you could make with this that would be really cute. Like a retro, like 60s, 70s, space age sort of vibe with the silhouettes of the clothes you're wearing. Or you could do like a Y2K alien and kind of reference the style and the fashion there, because there was both that kind of futuristic mindset or perspective at that time. I don't think you have to have the space helmet, but I think the space helmet's really cool if you could find some way to pull that off. Like making a little like space gun. I don't think that would be a very hard prop to make, and I think they're really cute. Definitely pretty high on my list of things that I might do this year. So before we wrap up here, I did want to make a recommendation for you guys for body paint. It's not really that hard to do body paint. It is time consuming, but I feel like it's one way that you can really do a more elevated costume without spending a ton of money. I like the Mayron Paradise paint. It's a water base, so you basically get the palette wet and then it brushes on like super smooth. It's buildable. I don't like oil-based makeups usually. They just give me sensory issues. These look really nice and they're very easy to wash off. It is water soluble, so you do want to be careful if you get wet. But I've used these several times. I actually just got like a big palette of them for Christmas that I haven't messed around with. I'm really excited to though. Really good quality, that is definitely my recommendation for body paint. I've used a couple. I'm really excited I got to share all of these ideas with you guys. Some of you may know, like, I'm really into costuming. That's quite a few of the videos I've done on this channel are me making a Halloween costume or making just a costume for a photo shoot. I'm really excited to have an excuse to make something cool again for this year's Halloween. And I hope that this inspired you to maybe do something a little bit more outside of the box. I know it takes more time to like sit down and make something for a costume as opposed to buying it, but it's more fun that way, and it can also be more sustainable if you're not just like buying something that you're just going to use once. I definitely recommend like digging through your closet and trying to find things that you could use for a costume. That's what I usually end up doing. I'll buy like a staple piece that the outfit kind of needs to be like read as a character. Like last year, all I really bought was a lab coat and a beaker, and I had everything else for it. I think it's a lot of fun to dress up. I hope to get to see everybody's cool costumes that they do this year. That's going to do it for today's video. Thank you so much for watching. I hope we have an amazing Halloween season this year. I hope you have a great rest of your day. Bye-bye. Bye-bye. Gloomy Bear says bye-bye.